Dick Van Dyke has spent more than 70 years bringing laughter, dance, and a sense of wonder to audiences worldwide. Recently, a candid and deeply personal revelation from the now 100-year-old legend left many surprised. Known for his uplifting spirit and cheerful demeanor, Van Dyke opened up about something that contrasted with the joyful image of the chimney sweep fans have cherished for generations. In sharing a long-held reflection he felt compelled to address while there was still time, he spoke words rooted in hard-earned wisdom from a life of inner challenges. Early life and career, Richard Wayne Van Dyke, better known as Dick Van Dyke, was born on December 13, 1925, in West Plains, Missouri. His mother, Hazel, worked as a stenographer, while his father, Loren Cookie Van Dyke, was a salesman. He grew up in Danville, Illinois, alongside his younger brother, Jerry, who would later portray his sibling on screen in The Dick Van Dyke Show. The family name Van Dyke has Dutch roots, though Dick also has English, Irish, and Scottish heritage. One notable ancestor was John Alden, a crew member on the Mayflower. In high school, he participated in the a cappella choir and drama club at Danville High School, eventually earning his diploma decades later in 2004. It was through school productions, performing alongside future talents like Bobby Short and Donald O'Connor, that he discovered his passion for entertainment. For a short time, he even contemplated becoming a minister. Van Dyke did not finish high school initially, as he enlisted in his senior year with the United States Army Air Forces during World War II. Rejected at first for being underweight, he eventually served as a radio announcer, later entertaining troops through special services while remaining stateside until his discharge in 1946. Post-war, he entered the entertainment industry. In the late 1940s, while working as a radio DJ in Illinois, he partnered with pantomime performer Phil Erickson. Together, they created a unique comedy routine called Eric and Van, the Merry Mutes, featuring pantomime and lip-sync performances in nightclubs along the West Coast. By the early 1950s, they hosted their own television program in Atlanta. His breakthrough into national television was gradual. He started with local TV in New Orleans and guest spots on shows like Chance of a Lifetime, The Phil Silvers Show, and The Polly Bergen Show. An old Army friend later secured him a 7-year contract with CBS, where he even co-hosted the morning program alongside Walter Cronkite. In 1959, he debuted on Broadway in The Girls Against the Boys. His major success arrived in 1960 with the role of Albert Peterson in the musical Bye Bye Birdie, earning him a Tony Award and leading to opportunities in Hollywood. His stardom soared from there. In 1961, The Dick Van Dyke Show made him a star, co-starring with Mary Tyler Moore and winning him several Emmys. In 1964, he delighted audiences as Bert in Disney's Mary Poppins, even though he often jokes today about his notoriously criticized Cockney accent. Through determination, skill, and good fortune, Dick Van Dyke transformed from a small-town boy into one of America's most cherished performers. His private struggles. Dick Van Dyke has long been the performer whose grin lifts spirits. Yet that grin once concealed a significant personal battle. For years, alcohol intermittently dominated his life, even as fans enjoyed his comedic timing, musical talents, and optimistic roles. He eventually acknowledged a serious issue with drinking that he had kept private amid his public success. He continued performing and entertaining, but the habit had escalated beyond casual enjoyment. He first discussed his alcoholism openly in the 1970s. A notable example was his 1974 appearance on The Dick Cavett Show, where he candidly shared his experiences at a time when many celebrities hid such issues. Prior to that public discussion, he had sought treatment, entering a hospital in the early 1970s. Accounts vary between 1972 and 1974. This marked his recognition that drinking required professional help. In 1974, he portrayed an alcoholic in the TV movie The Morning After, a serious role praised by critics that mirrored aspects of his own journey. His personal relationships also felt the strain. He later revealed therapy helped him recognize patterns inherited from his father, including late nights and family impacts. He admitted decades of alcoholism affected his marriage and home life, confronting regrets he had long avoided. In his memoir and interviews, Van Dyke approaches these topics with humility and accountability. He openly owns his past as an alcoholic, details the consequences, and credits supporters for his recovery. These vulnerable moments, treatment, public admissions, therapy insights, form the foundation of his resilience, explaining why his later reflections on resolving old regrets resonate as words from someone who has faced deep personal work. Love, loss, and new beginnings. For much of his life, Dick Van Dyke valued traditional commitment. At age 22 in 1948, he married Margie Willett, who preferred privacy over Hollywood glamour. As his fame grew, their outwardly stable marriage, rare in show business, seemed ideal, but challenges arose. Increasing demands, travel, and his alcoholism strained the relationship. Van Dyke later admitted his drinking and emotional distance contributed to their growing apart. Their 36-year marriage ended amicably in 1984 with a low-profile divorce. Afterward, he found companionship with actress Michelle Triola, beginning in the late 1970s. Though never married, their decades-long partnership was profound. She supported him through his toughest periods, including recovery from alcoholism. They shared a genuine, if complex, life until her death from lung cancer in 2009, leaving him devastated and confronting deep loneliness. Aging brought reflections on outliving loved ones, amplifying feelings of isolation. Then, in 2006, he met makeup artist Arlene Silver, over 40 years his junior. What began casually deepened, leading to their 2012 marriage in Malibu when he was 86. The age gap surprised many, but Van Dyke embraced it. He has credited Arlene with revitalizing him emotionally and physically, bringing energy, activity, and renewed excitement for life. As he has said, love can arrive later and prove profoundly meaningful. His Cockney accent in Mary Poppins. One persistent critique of Dick Van Dyke's career involves not his comedy or dance, but his accent in his most famous role. In 1964's Mary Poppins, as Bert the Chimney Sweep, his attempt at a Cockney, East End London working-class accent drew widespread criticism. Many called it inaccurate, hard to understand, and among the worst in film history. Even in the UK, it's often mocked, frequently appearing in lists of failed Hollywood British accents. A 2013 Empire magazine poll ranked it highly among the all-time worst. Intriguingly, Van Dyke has openly agreed. In later interviews, he acknowledged the accent fell short, noting his coach provided an improper version and no one on set corrected it. Despite this, Mary Poppins endures as a beloved classic, with Van Dyke's performance still delighting generations. The accent has become part of Hollywood folklore, something he now humorously embraces without diminishing his legacy, admitting he neglected family for work. As Dick Van Dyke reached his 100th birthday, he reflected honestly on prioritizing career over family in his early years. In a recent interview, he discussed hustling to provide while building his career, sometimes at the cost of time with loved ones. He was driven to escape financial hardship and secure stability for his young family with first wife Margie Willett and their 4 children, Christian, Barry, Stacy, and Carrie, Beth. Money was tight, so he took any job, early morning DJ shifts to late night performances, often sleeping just 3 or 4 hours. Looking back, he acknowledged his children likely felt neglected at times, not from lack of love, but from his focus on provision. He bought their first home using the GI Bill and noted his family never complained, understanding his motivation. Yet he remains grateful for his fulfilling career, waking each day excited, a privilege not everyone experiences. His story highlights the common challenge for entertainers, balancing demanding schedules with family, blending pride and achievements with humility about sacrifices. Dick Van Dyke's wealth. Dick Van Dyke is globally recognized as one of Hollywood's enduring favorites. His decades-spanning career from radio and Broadway to iconic TV and films built both fame and substantial wealth. Estimates place his net worth at approximately $50 million, derived from consistent work in multiple entertainment fields, syndication royalties, and wise choices allowing earnings into his later years. Key income came from The Dick Van Dyke Show, 1961 to 1966, a massive success generating ongoing syndication revenue, a major lifelong earner for classics. Films like Mary Poppins, 1964, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, 1968, Diagnosis Murder, 1993-2001, and others provided royalties from reruns and licensing. He diversified with stage work, music albums, books, and tours with his a cappella group, the Fantastics. Real estate investments in valuable areas added growth. Unlike some who retire early or overspend, Van Dyke stayed active, even appearing on The Masked Singer at 97 in 2023, maintaining relevance and income through visibility. The decade he never expected to reach, entering his 90s and the 2020s, Dick Van Dyke reflected deeply on life. In interviews, he expressed surprise at outliving close friends like Carl Reiner and Norman Lear, feeling the weight of being among the last of his generation. He admitted never expecting to live past 80, joking that knowing otherwise might have led him to better self-care earlier. Challenges included a 2023 car accident, from which he emerged grateful, simply saying, "I'm just glad I'm here." He attributes longevity to quitting alcohol and smoking, decisions aiding his advanced age, plus regular gym visits 3 times weekly, incorporating stretching, strength work, and occasional dance for physical and mental vitality. Despite age-related limitations, he approaches life with enthusiasm, recently stating, "A century feels insufficient and he desires more." Through the 2020s, he not only endured, but thrived, continuing to inspire with his youthful spirit, the real meaning behind his words. Hearing that Dick Van Dyke wants to end it might initially alarm, suggesting something dire. In truth, his reflections reveal a desire to conclude fears, regrets, silence, unresolved matters, and external expectations. Not his life. Approaching 100, he has spoken openly about aging, gratitude, and purposeful living in interviews and his book. He affirms a century is not enough and plans to continue. He has addressed outliving friends, confronting loneliness, and choosing intention over hesitation. Gratitude for daily opportunities, especially performing, remains central. Regrets include early overwork, missing family moments, and wishing for earlier health focus. Not despair, but lessons in balance. He advocates addressing loneliness in aging openly, emphasizing connection, particularly with wife Arlene, keeps him vibrant. Ultimately, ending it means releasing barriers, fear, regret, unfinished dreams, isolation, and notions of age as decline. He seeks life filled with gratitude, purpose, humor, and heart, qualities defining his extraordinary journey. And that concludes today's story. Dick Van Dyke's legacy transcends fame, wealth, or timeless roles. It's about resilience, authenticity, and presence through life's challenges. From triumphs to personal reflections, he has shared openly beyond the smile. If this touched you, made you smile, or shifted your view of him, like the video, subscribe, and comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.